Okay, first of all, I met Scott Peterson November 20th, 2002.
Directly to the killer, who may be in this room.
I'm going to turn now to that new charge for the so-called doomsday mom, Lori Vallow. Already charged in the killing of her 2 children, she is now being indicted for conspiracy to commit murder.
A violation of Penal Code Section 187 Prene, murder in the first degree. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Hello, everyone. This is Lauren with True Crime Headlines, and this is week 38 of 2021. And again, another big week in the true crime headline world. I actually have brought in another guest to help me. This is Shannon. Shannon, say hello.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, y'all. Shannon's from Texas.
A little bit.
And she's actually one of our patrons.
Yes.
And I know that I have mentioned several times, if you would really like to support this show, please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Palmahawk Media. That's PALAMAHAWK Media. And Shannon, can you tell our listeners here how awesome our Patreon is?
I love it. I love it so much. Number one, I don't like commercials.
Yes.
I really don't like commercials. And you get the unedited version.
Yes.
Of some shows and the extra show.
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's good. It's worth it. And I want to support y'all.
And you get True Crime Headlines and Paradise After Dark podcast. So there's just so much content.
And a coupon for your store.
Yes, there is. You do get a discount on our swag. So, anyway, do you want to just dive into this?
Yes.
I'm not even going to lie. I've been dreading this just because there's so much going on. And I've been consumed all week with trying to keep up with everything. So, before we get into the obvious biggest news of the week, I have several other stories that are just as important. And we are going to start out with murder suspect arrested 9 years after North Carolina college student Faith Hedgepeth killing. A 28-year-old North Carolina man was arrested and charged with first-degree murder Thursday, 9 years after the cold case killing of a University of North Carolina Chapel Hill student. UNC sophomore Faith Hedgepeth, 19, was found fatally beaten and possibly raped in her off-campus apartment in September of 2012. She was naked from the waist down and propped up against her bed in a pool of blood, according to Fox 8 in High Point, North Carolina. A note that said, "I'm not stupid, bitch, jealous," was found near her body. Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares, 28, was arrested on Thursday after his DNA matched some at the scene. He wasn't a suspect at the beginning of the investigation, Assistant Chapel Hill Chief of Police Celisa Lihu said in a Thursday news conference, according to The Hill. He was booked into the Durham County Jail without bond. Officials have not given a motive for the murder. "I didn't do anything but cry and thank God and praise God," Hedgepeth's mother, Connie, said after his arrest. "When I cried, it was tears of joy, tears of relief knowing that someone has been arrested in the case." Salguero Alvarez's mother said she doesn't believe her son killed Hedgepeth. "My son is not a murderer. I believe in my son. I believe it," she told WRAL-TV in Raleigh. He said he didn't know the girl. His DNA matched some collected through semen found at the crime scene and a composite description made entirely through DNA, Fox 8 reported. "This investigation is not complete. Our work is not done," LeHue said, according to The Hill. "We will continue to work on this case until every lead has been extinguished and any parties that have had a role in or knowledge of this tragedy are brought to justice." Next up. First, Paul Holes helped catch notorious Golden State Killer. Now he's writing a memoir. From Rolling Stone magazine, Paul Holes, hashtag Hot for Holes. The detective known for aiding cold case investigations, including the one that led to the arrest of the Golden State Killer, will publish a memoir Unmasked, My Life Solving America's Cold Cases on April 26, 2021 via Selden Books. And I am going to be right there buying that on the day it's released. The book will find Holes offering an inside look into the chilling investigations he's worked on, including the Golden State Killer, whose real name was Joseph D'Angelo, the murder of Lacey Peterson, and the kidnapping of J.C. Duggart. Holes will also offer some insight into his own personal life as he writes about the forces that have driven his career and the personal sacrifices he's had to make to pursue this kind of work. Holes, who is now retired, spent nearly 30 years as an investigator based out of Contra Costa County in California's Bay Area. He specialized in cold cases and serial predator crimes and was often at the forefront of applying new investigative, behavioral, and forensic techniques. His work on the Golden State Killer case is especially notable as it relied on DNA evidence and databases established for genealogical research to identify D'Angelo. Last year, D'Angelo pled guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder and 13 kidnapping-related charges for crimes he committed in the 70s and 80s throughout California. And just a little note, in the intro of this show, when you hear the word guilty, that's actually D'Angelo admitting his guilt. So, while Holes no longer officially works in law enforcement, he remains active in tracking cold cases. In 2019, he and journalist Billy Jensen launched the podcast The Murder Squad with the aim of helping solve cold cases, while earlier this year he joined a reboot of America's Most Wanted.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't either.
Is it? I don't know if it's out.
I don't know. Maybe one of those streaming things where you have to pay extra for.
Maybe. I don't know, but I would love to find that. I'm actually going to look for that.
Me too.
All right, moving on. What's our next story, Shannon? You're up.
Robert Durst found guilty. Yes! After decades of suspicion. Los Angeles, Robert A. Durst, the real estate scion who evaded criminal suspicion for half his life, only to become a national sensation after damaging admissions were aired in a 2015 documentary on HBO. He was convicted last Friday, in an execution-style murder of a close confidant more than 20 years ago.
You know, I never saw that show on HBO.
Yeah, well, you need to get...
You think I should watch it?
I do.
Yeah, now that he's been
I've
convicted.
got HBO. You can just come over. We'll all watch it again.
Well, but I'll come over and watch it with you.
Okay,
though.
cool.
It'd probably be more fun to watch it with you.
Right? We'll make fun of him together.
Yes, perfect.
The verdict, which came after about 7.5 hours of deliberations, was the latest act in a case that spanned almost 4 decades. It began in the wealthy precincts of New York with the mysterious disappearance of Mr. Durst's first wife, Kathy, in 1982, and concluded with his conviction for the killing 2 decades ago of Susan Berman, a friend who prosecutors said helped him cover up his wife's disappearance and death. Mr. Durst, a frail 78-year-old millionaire who sat through the trial in a wheelchair, was convicted of first-degree murder and faces a life sentence with no option for parole. A judge is scheduled to sentence him in October. Oh, right around the corner.
How long do you think he's going to last, though? He's 78.
He's not going to last long. No. But the good die young. The jury also found that special circumstances had been proven in connection to the death of Ms. Berman, determining that Mr. Durst had been lying in wait for her and that he had been killing a witness because he feared she would reveal what she knew about the disappearance of his wife. Mr. Durst, whose family owns many iconic buildings in Manhattan, has lived a life with enough titillating elements that they could fill a dozen true crime shows. I know. Titillating. Including a mafia princess, a missing young wife, the death and dismemberment of a drifter, celebrities like Lorraine Newman, and Steve Rubel, and decades of family betrayal. Although Mr. Durst was charged only with killing Miss Berman, the prosecution contended that her death was connected to the mysterious disappearance of Mr. Durst's first wife and the killing of the Drifter, whom he had befriended in 2001. 2001. Mr. Durst was acquitted in 2003 of killing the Drifter, Morris Black, who lived across the hall from him in a rooming house in Galveston, Texas, where Mr. Durst was hiding from authorities and living as a mute woman.
This guy's so weird.
I know. I'm telling you, you gotta watch the Jinx, the documentary, HBO, The Jinx. You have to watch it.
Okay, I'm going to watch it. All right. I think this is the perfect time for us to take a quick ad break. We'll be right
everybody
back.
Go pee.
And we are back. Where were we now? Okay, here we are. Prosecutors want to meet with Lori Vallow's doctors considering forced medication. Prosecutors in the Lori Vallow Daybell case are asking the 7th District Court's permission to meet with her medical providers. The prosecutors hope that by doing so, it will be determined if Vallow Daybell should be forcibly medicated. Prosecutor Lindsay A. Blake and Rob Wood submitted the request via a court filing on September 10th. Vallow Daybell is charged with the murders of her 2 children, Tylee Ryan, 17, and J.J. Vallow, 7. She is currently being held at a mental health facility where she's receiving restorative treatment. Boyce ordered her to the facility after a psychologist deemed her incompetent to stand trial. Vallow Daybell's 5th husband, Chad Daybell, is also charged in the murder of the children and that of his first wife, Tammy Daybell. Chad Daybell pleaded not guilty to the charges, while Vallow Daybell has not entered a plea due to receiving restorative care. In their September 10th court filing, prosecutors asked to meet with and to interview Vallow Daybell's medical providers. Those providers include psychiatrists, nurses, and other staff overseeing her treatment. The state, in performing its due diligence, must decide whether it should seek an order for forced medication as requested by the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, said prosecutors in court records. According to Wood and Blake, the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare is agreeable to meeting with them. The IDHW staff are witnesses on the issue. They inform the state they are willing to get with the state, but want a court order to address any implications derived from potential HIPAA requirements, said the court report. HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, is designed to protect sensitive patient health information from other parties. The state is also asking the court to provide a doctor's report and any raw data relating to the report in the state's possession to health and welfare. The department and its care providers need any and all information that may help in the assessment of the potential restorative treatment and medical care of the defendant. This information has been requested by IDHW from the parties, said the state. Can they do that? Can they force medication on someone?
I guess so, in order to make her legally sane.
I don't know. That seems. I mean, she deserves it. But
crazy.
I don't know.
I mean, when you think you're God and you can just take people out, your own children. I mean, so sad.
She's nuts.
Ugh.
Maybe that would do her good. Actually, thinking about it, I don't know.
Just bring back the hanging tree and just get it done.
Shannon,
hey, I'm from Texas.
That's right. We did warn the listeners at the beginning that you're from Texas. So, all right, moving on. Scott Peterson retrial. Stealth juror will ask for immunity, court documents reveal. A woman who served on the Scott Peterson murder trial jury is demanding immunity to protect herself against self-incrimination, court documents revealed. Rochelle Nice has been summoned to testify at Peterson's upcoming hearing. The hearing will decide if Peterson gets a whole new murder trial. Peterson has served 16 years on death row at San Quentin State Prison for the murder of his pregnant wife, Lacey. His next court date is set for this coming Wednesday. Court documents filed in San Mateo County Court on September 17th by Peterson's attorney show that Nice plans to plead the fifth if she is not granted immunity. District Attorney Birgit Flatiger blasted Peterson for going on a witch hunt against the juror. Nice hired a new defense attorney, Jeffrey Carr, who was the lead defense attorney for another very high-profile murder case in the same county courthouse. Carr gained notoriety when he successfully defended Tiffany Lee, also known as the Hillsborough heiress. In 2009, a jury found Lee not guilty of murdering her ex-boyfriend, Keith Green. Whether or not you believe Peterson is a cold-blooded killer, every person has a right to a fair trial. He has a team of investigators who just keep digging up more and more evidence that they say proves Nice was a stealth juror. Nice, who was nicknamed Strawberry Shortcake for her flaming red hair.
What? A redhead?
Is accused of lying during jury selection to cover up her past experiences as a domestic abuse victim.
What a dumbass.
Like Lacey, Nice was pregnant when she was victimized, Peterson's defense attorney Pat Harris said. During jury selection, Nice said that she had never been a victim of a crime. Carr confirmed to KRON4 Monday that he has been appointed as Nice's new defense attorney. He declined to release more information about Nice possibly exercising her Fifth Amendment right. At this point, we are not in a position where that would be an appropriate thing for me to comment on publicly, Carr said. And now we are moving on to Gabby Petito, of course, because this case has dominated the true crime headlines this week and last week. And as I always say, the news is fluid, so we will be reporting these headlines in chronological order. And Shannon, my dear co-host of the evening, you may go first.
Thank you. Yes, as Lauren said, this is really sad.
It's a tough certain wear on me, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. And I think most people that follow these stories, it's just horrible. How do you not have these how do you not have your heart go out to them?
Right.
The family and this guy. I'm going to start reading because I'll just go on a rant. Missing Gabby Petito. Parents claim they haven't seen Brian Laundrie since Tuesday. This article is from 9/17. Florida police were seen entering the home of missing Gabby Petito's fiancé, Brian Laundrie, and his parents Friday evening. And stunned investigators said Laundrie's parents hadn't seen him since Tuesday. Police arrived at 6:20 p.m., and 2 officers exited the home around 7 p.m. One returned inside about a minute later with what appeared to be an evidence envelope. It was not immediately clear where Laundrie was, but he wasn't at the home. Northport police spokesman Josh Taylor told Fox News before police arrived at the home Friday night that investigators believed they would find Laundrie there. Petito's stepfather, Jim Schmidt, said during a televised interview that he learned of Laundrie's parents' claim during a televised interview. It's the first time we are hearing it, he told CNN on Friday night. I am very caught off guard about hearing what we just heard. I can't confirm where he's at, Taylor told Fox News on Friday evening. He's a private citizen that's not a suspect. Laundrie's lawyer, Stephen Bertolino, said he didn't know where his client was either. Be advised that the whereabouts of Brian Laundrie are currently unknown, he told Fox News in a text message. The FBI is currently at Laundrie's residence removing property to assist in locating Brian. As of now, the FBI is looking for both Gabby and Brian. Northport police tweeted that investigators were speaking with the family at their request, but were not talking to Laundrie, who was named a person of interest in Petito's disappearance Wednesday. At one point, 2 officers looked into a silver Ford Mustang in the Laundrie's driveway. Police walked out again around 8 p.m., returning to the house moments later with another bag. 2 other law enforcement officers were seen leaving the property around that time. Authorities left the property just before 9 p.m.
See, it's so crazy because this feels like so long ago. And it was less than a week ago that this particular news came out. This came out Friday of last week, which was right after we recorded last week's episode.
Right.
But it just seems so much has happened. So we're going to, like I said, go in chronological order.
That's ridiculous. It's
with this case, it's hard to keep track of, which is why I'm going in chronological order. And
Thank you.
An article from September 19th from WCIA.com. Body found in Wyoming, believed to be Gabby Petito. Search continues for fiancé. Northport, Florida. Authorities say a body discovered Sunday in Wyoming is believed to be Gabby Petito. The FBI said the body was found by law enforcement agents who had spent the past 2 days searching campgrounds on the east boundary of the park. Police also searched a vast Florida wildlife reserve on Sunday for Laundrie, a person of interest in the case. The 23-year-old was last seen Tuesday by family members in Florida, and investigators have been searching for him for the past 2 days in a 24,000-acre wildlife reserve near Sarasota, Florida. Police say Laundrie's missing status is, quote, certainly a twist. We're hopeful he's out there, says Josh Taylor, Northport Police spokesperson. Certainly, we've prepared for all different possibilities, but our goal is to locate him and bring him back to Northport. Authorities used drones, scent-sniffing dogs, and all-terrain vehicles in the reserve, which has more than 100 miles of trails as well as campgrounds. Investigators took some of his clothing from his parents' home Friday night to provide a scent for the search dogs. His family says they believe he entered the area earlier this week. Northport Police tweeted Saturday. Investigators in Florida were hopeful Laundrie was somewhere in the wildlife reserve near Sarasota. Depending on his skills, he could survive out in the reserve for some time, said police spokesperson Josh Taylor.
From 9/20, September 20th, FBI searches Florida home of Gabby Petito's boyfriend. This one comes from WRAL.com. Northport, Florida.
I love your different voices you're using.
I don't know. Thanks. I'm such a dork. Okay. FBI agents and police Monday searched the home of the boyfriend wanted for questioning in the death of 22-year-old Gabby Petito, whose body was discovered over the weekend at a Wyoming national park months after the couple set out on a cross-country road trip. The FBI gave no details on the search by at least a dozen law enforcement officers, but agents removed several boxes and towed away a car that neighbors said was typically used by 23-year-old Brian Laundrie's mother. Local media said Laundrie's parents were seen getting into a police vehicle. Petito's father, Joseph, posted on social media an image of a broken heart above a picture of his daughter with the message, "She touched the world." In an interview broadcast Monday on TV's Dr. Phil show, Joseph Petito said Laundrie and his daughter had dated for 2.5 years, and Laundrie was, quote, always respectful. During the interview, which was recorded before his daughter's body was found, Petito said the couple had taken a previous road trip to California in her car and there were no problems. Quote, if there were, I would have discouraged going on the trip, Petito said. We called Brian, we called the mom, we called the dad, we called the sister, we called every number we could find, Petito said. No phone calls were picked up, no text messages were returned. Petito said he wants Laundrie to be held accountable for whatever part he played in Gabby's disappearance, along with his family for protecting him. I hope they get what's coming. And that includes his folks, Petito said. I agree 100%, dude. Because I tell you right now, they are just as complicit in my book. The FBI said investigators are seeking information from anyone who may have seen the couple around Grand Teton. If you see something, say something.
That's what we always say on Paradise After Dark. Shannon, you pay attention.
I do.
Shannon, I gotta give you props. You have been I think you've been one of our patrons since early on.
I think so.
Like early on when we started our Patreon. And I
love y'all. I appreciate y'all.
It's just funny
it's
how
a fun
much
show.
You pay attention to our little nuances, you know? All right.
I don't stalk you, I promise.
Yeah, right. And now you know where we live. Oh, shit. All right. From Fox News, Gabby Petito, police declare crime scene as FBI enters Brian Laundrie's Florida home. Live updates. Search warrant for computers found in couple's van highlights odd text Petito family received. The search warrant issued for computers and hard drives found in Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie's van highlight an odd text the Petito family received. On August 27, 2001, the subject's mother, Nicole Schmidt, received an odd text message from Gabby. The text read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls," the document reads. The document goes on to explain that referring to Stan, Petito's grandfather, by his name was unusual behavior for Gabby. The exchange led to the mother to begin having concerns about Petito's well-being. Law enforcement officers visit the home of Brian Laundrie's sister, Cassie Laundrie. A pair of apparent law enforcement officers visited the Lakewood Ranch home of Brian Laundrie's sister, Cassie Laundrie, hours before the FBI raided her parents' Northport home. Nancy Grace on Gabby Petito's case. How long has Brian Laundrie really been gone? Fox Nation host Nancy Grace highlighted important questions regarding Gabby Petito's disappearance and Brian Laundrie's actions. On America's Newsroom, she said the condition of the body discovered in Grand Teton National Park will help determine the cause of death. Grace also questioned how Laundrie was able to leave the house unnoticed despite the constant press coverage at his home, suggesting that he may have left the home much earlier in September. That is a theory that I have as well.
Absolutely.
So this is a quote. This is what Nancy Grace actually said. With all the press and citizens outside the home, how did Laundrie get out and nobody noticed? That place has been staked out 24/7. Did he really go to Carlton Reserve? Why do we believe that, other than that's what his parents said? I don't understand how a car could have left with him in it, and then the parents bringing it back and nobody sees any of this happening. I'm also very concerned about the condition in which Gabby was found. Her remains. Was she buried? Was she at the bottom of a ravine? Was she attacked by animals? Did she die from the elements? Because if Gabby was buried, then she was murdered. That's what we need to find out. But back to Laundrie, I am suspicious. Was he ever in Carlton Reserve? And here's something else for you to think about. Has anybody seen him at all since he got home on September 1st? How long has he really been gone? Remember, the parents wouldn't let the cops in the home. They wouldn't let them see Laundrie or talk to him. Has he been gone this whole time?
No joke.
That is something that I am very suspicious about.
So frustrating.
Personally, John Walsh said something similar, and I think that I may have that in this episode. Honestly, there's so much I can't even remember.
I know. It's happening so fast and feels so long, too.
Okay, so note left on Brian Laundrie's car report. Police had left a note on the vehicle after it was abandoned by Brian Laundrie last week, asking that the vehicle be removed from the area he left it, according to reporting from the New York Post. Laundrie's family did not remove the car, hoping he would eventually return to it. And more details on the 911 call about Petito and Laundrie's altercation in Moab. The 911 caller, who reported a domestic dispute between Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito in Moab, Utah, on August 12th, was heard telling dispatchers that the gentleman was slapping the girl and hitting her. Fox News has confirmed Monday after exclusively obtaining the audio of the call. He was slapping her, the dispatcher is heard asking. Yes. And then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off, the caller added. Whew, that was a mouthful. That was a lot of information. I think maybe we should just
take a break.
Take a quick break.
Potty break.
We will be right back. And we are back. Shannon, hit it, girl.
Police no longer think laundry is in nature reserve. Holy moly. Northport police say Monday.
Mind you, this was earlier.
This was like
week.
Forever ago.
Monday. But
it feels like a month ago.
It does feel like a month ago.
Because so much has happened. But we're going in the timeline. Northport police say Monday they shifted the focus of their search for laundry and are no longer looking for him in the nature reserve. Quote, at this time, we currently believe we have exhausted all avenues in searching of the grounds there, Taylor said. Boyer, the NASAR director, what is that?
I
almost said NASCAR. Sorry. The NASAR director said trying to find a person in the wilderness can be very difficult. I'm assuming that that's the person that is directing the whole...
Maybe.
I mean, when you're searching through a nature reserve...
Yeah.
It's really hard to find people even when they want to be found, he told CNN. Well, that's probably true. That's a lot of acreage to cover.
I know.
What makes finding laundry difficult, though, is the distance he could have already traveled before authorities started looking for him, especially if he left before his parents said that he did.
Which I think they did.
I know, right? The search area starts to grow every hour he could be in a car or be on foot, Boyer said. It's getting pretty daunting, to be honest. Not to mention the heat.
I know. The heat and snakes and alligators and mosquitoes.
I hope he found an alligator.
Okay, so from September 21st from the New York Post, Gabby Petito warned by Utah park ranger that relationship with Brian Laundrie seemed toxic. The National Park Service law enforcement ranger who responded to a domestic incident between Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito in Utah last month warned the woman that her relationship with Laundrie seemed, quote, toxic. I was probably more candid with her than I should have been, Melissa Hulls, the Visitor and Resource Protection Supervisor at Arches National Park, told the Desert News in an interview about her conversation with Petito on August 12. By the time Hulls responded that day, Petito, 22, was sobbing in the back of a police cruiser, and the ranger approached her, the Long Island native, may have been more comfortable speaking with a woman during the emotional ordeal. I was imploring with her to reevaluate the relationship, Hull told the newspaper, asking her if she was happy in the relationship with him and basically saying this was an opportunity for her to find another path and make a change in her life. Police body cam footage of the incident has been released by the Moab City Police Department. Hulls was also wearing a body camera, but said that she has not looked over the footage. It's not hard to second guess myself, as I wish I was more, or wish I had found the right words to make her believe that she deserved more, Hulls said.
All right, so I just got to say this. So Hulls was the National Park Service law enforcement.
Yes.
Not the police officers.
Right.
And the police officers are trained, supposedly, in knowing when domestic violence is going on. But the fact that Melissa Hulls is the National Park Service.
Yeah, she's not
a police officer. And no. The police officers are supposedly trained on domestic violence.
Right. So it's
such a, excuse my language, a shit show.
It is a shit show. But
it's a poop show, y'all. And it hurts our hearts.
This hurts my heart that park ranger recognized what was happening.
Yes.
And tried. Yes. I mean, she tried.
She tried to get Gabby to speak up for herself and see
what was happening.
So, here we are on September 22nd. The autopsy confirms remains found in Wyoming are Gabby Petito's. Autopsy results have confirmed that The remains found Sunday in Wyoming Bridger Teton National Forest are those of Gabby Petito, a 22-year-old woman who disappeared while on a trip exploring national parks with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, according to FBI in Denver. The FBI tweeted that Teton County Coroner Dr. Brent Blue ruled the manner of death a homicide in his preliminary findings. Quote, the cause of death remains pending final autopsy results, the FBI said. Anyone with information concerning Mr. Laundrie's role in this matter or his current whereabouts should contact the FBI. Special Agent in Charge Michael Schneider. The FBI in Denver said the agency would like information from anyone who may have had contact with Petito or Laundrie who visited the Spread Creek dispersed camping area between August 27th through the 30th, or may have seen their vehicle. Again, if you see something, say something. And some people have called in recently. I mean, we're talking the 22nd. The autopsy results came out. What is today? The 23rd. And there have been a few more statements that I've heard.
Yeah, a lot of people have come forward with information thanks to the news and the police releasing information.
That's true.
So a witness says that Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito argued aggressively over cell phone. A witness statement contends that Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie fought over a phone and argued aggressively outside a store in Utah last month, according to a report. Something seemed off, a witness identified as Chris said of the August 12th incident between Petito and Laundrie in Moab, the New York Post reported. The couple argued over the phone at Moonflower Community Cooperative just before 5 p.m. Chris wrote in the statement to the Moab Police Department, according to the paper. They were talking aggressively at each other, and something seemed off, the statement read. I think the male took the female's phone. It appeared that he didn't want her in the white van. At one point, she was punching him in the arm and or face and trying to get into the van. I wasn't sure how serious this was. It was hard to tell if they were sort of play fighting, but from my point of view, something definitely didn't seem right.
Carlton Reserve still major focus in search for Brian Laundrie.
Well, wait, didn't they just say 2 days ago that they don't believe he's in there?
Right?
What changed?
I don't know.
Okay, let's keep moving.
Let's go. Maybe
the answer is in here. I don't know.
Maybe they found something when they searched the house. Northport Police Department has focused on Sarasota County's Carlton Reserve during their search for Brian Laundrie, who was finally named a person of interest. Sorry.
Oh, finally.
Finally! In the disappearance of Gabby Petito. Police said the search on Tuesday was unsuccessful, but the, quote, current plan is to return Wednesday with a similar operation. Police have been using drones and canine search for Laundrie, but the terrain is really challenging, and it is about 75% underwater. Northport police are joined by several agencies, including the FBI and the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. Governor Ron DeSantis said that the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission has been assisting in the search. Quote, I have directed all state agencies under my purview to continue to assist federal and local law enforcement as they continue to search. We need justice for Gabby Petito, he tweeted.
So Brian Laundrie's family issued a statement following confirmation of Gabby's death. His family have since released the following brief statement through their attorney. You ready for this? May Gabby rest in peace. That's it.
That's it.
Prosecutors need to tie up loose ends. Who killed her, and is Brian Laundrie still alive? This one comes from TMZ. Gabby Petito's death has put her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, in the crosshairs of law enforcement, but TMZ has learned prosecutors are not making a move until two primary loose ends are tied up. Law enforcement sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ Laundrie is their suspect despite the fact that he's being officially called a person of interest. That said, we're told federal prosecutors are now in a waiting game, in large part because they don't know if Laundrie is still alive. What's more, law enforcement sources tell TMZ even if Gabby was murdered, which seems to be the case since the coroner's already ruled her death a homicide, they would need to prove who did it. Our sources point out it's possible Laundrie left Gabby out in the wilderness and someone else killed her. Whether it's probable or not, it's still possible. As for why federal prosecutors will handle the case, it's because Gabby was apparently killed in the Grand Teton National Park, which is federal land. We're told law enforcement is viewing Laundrie as their prime suspect, but there's a leap between that and actually charging someone with murder. As we reported, a witness called 911 and told the dispatcher Laundrie had slapped and hit Gabby shortly before she went missing. The coroner is expected to reveal the cause of death shortly. Now from today, the day of this recording, September 23rd. Gabby Petito update. Latest. Friends say Brian Laundrie could hide for months as TikTok sighting in Canada.
Oh, God.
Thursday, today, September 23rd, 8:32 p.m. we are recording this. Thursday marked the 6th day in the search for Brian Laundrie. A TikTok user claimed she saw Mr. Laundrie in Canada, though there's no indication any law enforcement agency is taking her claim seriously, as that would place him more than 1,500 miles from his home. Canada also has strict quarantine mandates in place for foreign visitors. Co-workers of Mr. Laundrie's claim he was well-versed in outdoor survival, though there is little beyond anecdotes to substantiate those claims. Funeral services for Gabby Petito are up in the air as the Teton County Medical Examiner has yet to release her remains to her family. The family lawyers said once Miss Petito's body is back in New York with her family, they will determine specifics for her funeral service. Authorities have not said why they are convinced Laundrie, who they call a person of interest in the case, may still be somewhere inside the more than 25,000-acre Carlton Reserve near his home in Northport, Florida, more than a week after he told family members he was headed there for a hike. The Carlton Reserve has more than 80 miles of hiking trails, but is dominated by swampy water. Also, on Wednesday, a waitress came forward to describe a stand-up argument between Laundrie and a waitress at a restaurant in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, around the time Miss Petito is believed to have sent her final text to her mother. And we will end this week's episode with a news clip from Fox 13 Tampa Bay, who spoke to defense attorney Anthony Rickman about the actions of police and, most interestingly, what charges Brian Laundrie's family may face in the future.
There's a lot that remains still here a mystery when it comes to Gabby's death. Brian Laundrie's own suspicious disappearance, of course. But tonight we're also going to explore some of the most pressing legal questions surrounding this case. And Tampa defense attorney Anthony Rickman joins us now live to help us understand the situation a little bit better. Hi there, Anthony. We appreciate your time here. The big question I know so many people have, this business about a person of interest, there's really no suspect who's been named. Why, in your opinion, has Brian Laundrie not been formally named a suspect?
Good evening, Mark. And understand, there's no requirement that law enforcement deem Brian Laundrie a suspect. But in these cases, in these investigations, actions speak louder than words. And we only need to look at the actions of law enforcement to see that Brian Laundrie is indeed a suspect. In this case, we see law enforcement executing search warrants that indicate they believe a felony occurred. We see a nationwide manhunt, local search warrants. We see the state of Florida executing any resource they have to find Brian Laundrie. Although they're not calling him a suspect, it's clear he is a suspect, and he's the only suspect in this case.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up. What do you make of the fact that no other person of interest has been named?
Well, look, Brian Laundrie was with Gabby when they went on this trip. He came back without her. We know that there's a history of violence and abuse while they were on this trip in Wyoming. We know that when he comes back, he leaves and flees, and he's still that to be found. We know there's mysterious text messages that were sent by somebody with access to the phone, and he had access to that phone. Right now, he's the only person with a direct link to Gabby who may know where she is, or right now, the only person we believe may have done something to her.
Yeah, you spent some time working in the state attorney's office years ago. What, in your opinion, do you think, if he is guilty, what do they need to make a case against Laundrie?
They're going to have to prove that he's the one who committed this crime. And in doing so, the first thing they're going to look at is that autopsy that was just conducted. They're going to look to see what caused the death of Gabby. They're going to look to her body to see if there's any forensic evidence, for instance, DNA under her nails. They're going to look to the surrounding area around her body to see if there's any link to Brian Laundrie. Did he drop something? Did he leave something? Did he leave a weapon? They're going to look to the phone records, his conversations with anybody around to see if he said anything incriminating. Ultimately, they're going to argue that his fleeing, his running away, forms some sort of consciousness of guilt. If you didn't do anything wrong, why are you running? Why are you fleeing? They're going to piece together all the evidence to make and build a case if they believe he's the person who committed the crime.
Let's back up to that Northport police press conference about a week ago. And I know we're all used to it in the media, of course. As you know, there's a lot of information that can be held back in an investigation that does not need to be made public early on. But it was curious. The Northport police chief said that there is a lot that they weren't telling us. They did admit that last week. What do you think kind of information that could be?
Well, we learned after this press conference that a search warrant was executed at the home of Brian Laundrie. We also learned that there was a hard drive found in the van that was located at Brian Laundrie's home. We know in that search warrant, it talks about text messages that were received by Gabby's family that they found to be suspicious. We do know that around the time that she was reported missing, they searched the van and they did find evidence within that van. Now, that evidence could be forensic. Could there be blood? Could there be links? Could there be other physical evidence in addition to those text messages that establishes that he had committed the crime and is responsible for her death?
What about Laundrie's parents? I know there's a lot of frustration. A lot of members of the public, investigators have clearly been on record to say there hasn't been much help there. Could his parents, do you think, be charged with anything if there's any proof that they may have helped him at some point?
Absolutely. If law enforcement can establish that his parents, if they did, we don't know what they did, but if law enforcement can establish that his parents in some way hid evidence, concealed evidence, tampered with evidence, then they could be charged. Additionally, we know the FBI was involved in an investigation. We know the FBI came and spoke with the parents. If the parents lied or made false statements to the FBI, they could be charged with that. If the parents intentionally assisted him in fleeing or did something after the fact, they could be an accessory after the fact. So possibly his parents, depending on what they did, could be charged with a crime.
Sure. We have so many more developments likely coming by the day, as we've seen over the last better part of a week and a half. So, Anthony Rickman, an attorney in Tampa, we appreciate your time tonight and your perspective.
Okay, and I know that I said that this was going to be the last little bit of this, but literally as Shannon and I are sitting here listening to this clip, my mother-in-law just texted me a news article. Gabby Petito case, FBI issues federal arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie wanted for bank fraud. The FBI announced late Thursday that they have issued a federal arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie, fiance of Gabby Petito, the missing travel blogger whose remains were found earlier this week in Grand Teton National Park. Laundrie was reportedly last seen on September 14th, but investigators only began to search for him on Friday, after his parents acknowledged that he was not at their home in Northport, Florida. Since then, several agencies, including the FBI and state law enforcement, have been searching for Laundrie in the 24,000-acre Carlton Nature Preserve. Brian Laundrie is considered a person of interest in Petito's death, but the FBI added on Thursday that they were seeking Laundrie in connection with bank fraud in Wyoming, where he and Petito were last seen together. On September 22, 2021, the U.S. District Court in Wyoming issued a federal arrest warrant for Brian Christopher Laundrie, pursuant to a federal grand jury indictment related to Mr. Laundrie's activities following the death of Gabrielle Petito, the FBI said on Twitter. We urge individuals with knowledge of Mr. Laundrie's role in this matter or current whereabouts to contact the FBI. The warrant, which is available to the public, alleges that between August 1st and September 30th, Laundrie used a Capital One bank debit card and a stolen personal identification number, PIN number, to obtain things of value aggregating to $1,000 or more from select accounts. It is not clear whether those accounts belong to Gabby Petito. The warrant also notes that the FBI is allowed to arrest Laundrie, but they are still seeking information in connection with Petito's disappearance and death. Gabby, Petito, and Laundrie were seen several times in mid-August and on at least one occasion were involved in a domestic disturbance. So, there's a federal arrest warrant out for Brian Laundrie. And literally, that just came to my attention in the last 5 minutes.
Do you think that the FBI put that warrant out just to have more against him when they find him?
They may have.
Knowing that she died at a certain date and knowing that he was using most likely her finances, her credit card or debit card.
Right.
And it just gives them more fuel to, when they find him, maybe alive, arrest him and have just more to throw at his sorry ass.
Sorry ass.
He's a sorry ass.
Yes.
This motherfucker.
Okay.
I'm going to take that tomahawk and pretend to throw it at him because I'm not a murderer yet.
All right. So this is going to conclude our week 38 of True Crime Headlines.
Yep.
Shannon, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Lauren.
We have had some really amazing conversation in between our recordings here. And
yes, we have. And I'm grateful for it. Thank you.
Me too. Me too. And I'm so happy to have one of our patrons on the show.
Yes.
If any of our
if
other
you're
patrons
on the fence, sign up. $5 a month. What? You know, just do it. Right? I promise.
Thank you.
Love y'all.
All right. And I will talk at you again next week.
Yep.
I'm actually kind of hoping
Open your earballs. Lauren's talking at us is pretty good.
I'm hoping next week maybe this will slow down, but I don't know. We'll see. All right. I'll talk at you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening to True Crime Headlines. And Shannon, thank you for joining me. Everybody have a wonderful week.
Okay, first of all, I met Scott Peterson November 20th, 2002.
Directly to the killer who may be in this room.
I'm going to turn now to that new charge for the so-called doomsday mom, Vallow. Already charged in the killing of her 2 children, she is now being indicted for conspiracy to commit murder.
A violation of Penal Code Section 187 Prene, murder in the first degree. How do you plead?
Guilty.